Okay, so good morning students. As I have said, we will start with the physiology of nerve impulse conduction. So how the nerve will transfer its signals from one neuron to another neuron and all these things. So before discussing this nerve impulse conduction, we should know one thing, that the membrane of the neuron. So for example, this is a nerve fiber, think of axon. Okay. So here we have the part called as axon hillock, and these are the cyton parts, these are the dendrites. So now we have to discuss the transfer or the conduction of nerve impulse and all the remaining physiologies in this portion, that is the nerve fiber part, or we can say axon part. So what we'll do is we will zoom in this portion and then we'll study what is present in that. After that we'll start the physiology. So first I want to discuss the structure once. So first of all, the main point you have to remember is this point called as axon hillock. Why? Because that is the place, or we can say that is a zone where the impulse starts its journey, or we can say that is a place where the impulse will be generated. So that is a place where we have generation of impulse, generation of nerve impulse. So I'll tell you what is nerve impulse, but anyway, so this point is very important. Leaving that point, first of all, what are the structures present in this axon or nerve fiber, and how they are helping in maintaining or transfer of the nerve impulse, we'll discuss. Okay. So first we'll start with the structure of the nerve fiber. You know, this nerve fiber can also be called as axon, and this membrane here, this membrane, this is called as axolemma. You can call this membrane as axolemma. So I am showing you both sides of the membrane. So we can call this membrane as what? Axolemma. And the fluid inside the axon is called as axoplasm, and the fluid outside the axon is called as extracellular fluid, or ECF. So now when you observe the membrane, we can see that this membrane is having several ion channels. We can observe things like ion channels, which are also called as voltage gated channels, because they depend on the concentration of ions or the voltages. I'll tell you what the voltage is again. Okay. Then we have in these membranes, then we have the pumps, the ATPase pumps. Okay, or we can say, to be exact, is sodium potassium ATPase pump. So these two things can be seen on these membranes. Now what are they? We'll see one by one. So if we take one membrane here, if I assume one membrane, so on the membrane we can see a voltage gated channel of potassium. So we can see potassium voltage gated channel. We can see sodium gated channels. These sodium are special. So we can see sodium gated channels, and we can see the pump, sodium potassium pump. So I will draw it here. So we can also see sodium potassium pump. Okay, so you can see I have drawn some depressions there. Why means this sodium potassium pump has the capacity to send out, so it can, this capacitor, it can send out 3 potassium molecules. At the same time it can bring in 2 sodium molecules, sorry, 3 sodium molecules, and can bring in 2 potassium molecules. So that's its capacity. Now when will they be active? When will these ion channels be active? Means they will be active according to the condition. So because of these channels, because of the permeability, difference in the permeability and their activation. For example, if I say if you think that these potassium channels are always active, that means they are permeable to only potassium, as the name itself indicates, only potassium, and you can have the influx, or we can say the outflux of the potassium always. So we can have the potassium ions coming in or going out easily, so there is no problem. But the second point, sodium channels are not always active, or not always open. They can leak some sodium ions according to the concentration gradient, but they are always closed. And these potassium ion channels, they are only permeable to potassium, they are not permeable to sodium. Okay, so now the point is, because of this so-called the movement of ions with the permeability, what happens is there is some potential difference created between these two areas, that is the axoplasm and the ECF. So one more thing you have to remember, that is the negative proteins present in axoplasm. So inside this axoplasm we have several proteins which will cause the negativity of this area. So we can have proteins here. So we can see several proteins which are negative in nature. So they are having negative charges. So there is negative nature here. Now because of these three points, or these three parts, there is a difference in the ionic potentials of this membrane between these two. So now that potential which is created, it is called as membrane potential. So now the main point to remember, membrane potential. So what is the membrane potential? The membrane potential is the difference in ionic concentrations, or we can say difference in the potential voltages in these two, between the axoplasm and the ECF. Now for example, think that the nerve is not activated, the nerve is just in the inactive conditions, think of that. Okay, so in inactive conditions there will be some membrane potential. So the point is, because of these ions and all those things, the membrane is always polarized. So the membrane is in what condition? Polarized condition. That means there is some potential difference between the outer and the inner. See, for example, as we have discussed, this pump is sending out 3 sodium ions and taking in only how many? 2 potassium ions. That means what? If you take in the ECF, we will have lot of sodium, so we will just write that. In the ECF part, we will have lot of sodium ions, and in the axoplasm part we have lot of potassium ions. But the point is, we will have positive charge. The potential difference will be positive in the ECF. Why? Because here we have negative charge proteins. It is not because of the more sodium ions present on that side, but because of the more negative proteins present on this side, this axoplasm, it is negatively charged. Okay, and here it is what? It is positively charged. Now this is the polarized condition of the nerve, and in this condition the membrane is in resting condition. So here the membrane is not passing any nerve impulse. It is not having any signals. It is a resting phase where we have the polarized state of the nerve. That means it is ready for the depolarization, but it should require some stimulus. But if it is in resting condition, it have this potential. That is, we will have negative charge inside and we have positive charge outside. And moreover, we have more potassium inside and more sodium outside due to the permeability of the potassium. Okay, so now the point is this charge. How much is the charge? The charge is minus 70 millivolts. So what is the resting membrane potential? If someone asks you what is the resting membrane potential, resting membrane potential. The resting membrane potential, when we observe using some electrodes or voltmeter, so you can find that the resting membrane potential is minus 70 millivolts with respect to exoplasm, because we are having more negative charge in the exoplasm. We will write as minus 70 millivolts. So this is the resting potential or resting membrane potential. Now whenever the stimulus is applied, whenever there is some changes in the outward environment, what happens? There is some change in this ionic channels activity. So these ionic channels will change their activity. Then what happens? Then happens is the activation of the nerve, or the membrane potential changes causing the nerve impulse. That we will discuss now one by one. Okay, so that's about the resting membrane potential, which is around minus 70 millivolts. Okay, so for example, now we have got the stimulus. Assume that the stimulus is there. So we'll all have these points. So assume that there is some stimulus. Okay, so this is the membrane. We are discussing only one part of the membrane. Okay, so we are discussing one part of the membrane. So what we are having the positive charge outside, and we are having the negative charge inside. Thanks for the negatively charged proteins. And coming to ions, what ions we have more outside? We have sodium ions more outside because of the activity of the ionic channels, and we have more potassium ions inside. So this is supported to many things. As I have said, one is the permeability of the ion channels. Ion channels are only permeable to the potassium ions, not to sodium ions. And moreover, they are also helped by the ATPase pump, sodium potassium ATPase pump. So we'll write that diagrams also here. We'll draw them. So here we have the sodium gated channel. So this sodium channel is closed right now. So we have potassium gated channel. So we have the potassium gated channel, and we have the ATPase pump, which is continuously pumping the sodium outside. So thanks for this ATPase pump, because it is the one which will help in pumping more sodium outside. As I have said, 3. So it can pump out how many? It can pump out 3 sodium ions at once. Taking in how many? Only 2. So it will pump out 3 sodium if anything is present inside, 3 sodium outside. It will pump in 2 potassium. Okay, I'll write the sodium outside there, 3 sodium outside, and we have the 2 potassium pumping inside. So this is happening when there is resting membrane potential. Now we get a doubt, sir, why the sodium is going outside? Because of the molecular weight. So always cells will prefer sending more molecular weight ions outside rather than the inside molecular weights. So leaving that point, the main reason is the permeability. The main reason is what? The permeability of the ion channels. So potassium ion channels are always active, okay, and permeable. Sodium can only leak. Remember, sodium are not closed here. They are not closed. They are leaking. That means you can leak a few, 1 or 2 sodium outside. You can leak 1 or 2, but you can't confirm it. All the sodium will not go out, or all the sodium will not come in. So there will be leaking of some sodium. There will be leaking of some sodium, which is again sent out by this potassium sodium pump, ATPase pump, which uses energy. Obviously, the name itself says which uses energy. So now think that there is some stimulus applied. So think of it. Stimulus is applied. So we have the stimulus being applied. Now when the stimulus is applied, what happens at that point? What happens is the sodium channels gets opened up. Remember this point, this stimulus is not attaining or not putting pressure on all the axon. It will just be localized. So stimulus is localized, having localized effect. So whatever the change of ion concentration will be localized. There will not be any action on all the parts of the axon. It will be localized. At some point, as I have said, we have the trigger point. What is the trigger point of axon? That is the axon hillock. So from all the dendrites, the proteins will come, all the dendrite actions, they will bring the ions, and all the ions will start putting their effort on the site called as axon hillock. So the opening of the sodium channels will start at the axon hillock. So what happened here? The axon hillock, we have got the signals, we have got the stimulus signals, and at that time what happens is the sodium channels opens up. So this is the main point. Sodium channels gets opened up. So we have written that point, gets opened up. Remember, there is no change in the potassium channels now. Potassium channels are just the same, but the main point I have to say is the sodium potassium ATPase pump stops. Sodium potassium ATPase pump stops. That means the sodium will not be flushing out. Sodium stays inside. So now what happens here, as we have said, so if you try to put it in a different way, this sodium gets opened up. So this is stopped, it has stopped its function. So there is no function for this particular point. So there is no influx or outflux of the sodium. Now the main point is, as this sodium channels are opened up, there is rapid influx of the sodium ions. So sodium ions will continuously get an influx because there is the opening of the sodium ion channels due to the stimulus. Now because of rapid influx, what happens, I'll draw here. So the sodium ion channel has been opened up. See, potassium will be obviously open, but that doesn't matter here because potassium is a very slow functioning ionic channel. So it is a very slow functioning ionic channel. So it is obviously opened up. And what we said, the sodium potassium ATPase is stopped. It has stopped its function. So I just write stop. So it has stopped its function. So what happened? All the sodium ions have rapid influx, which will change the membrane potential. Because of the rapid influx, what happens? The positivity increases. The potential difference between the two areas, what happens? The positive difference or positive potential difference is created here. So positive difference has been created because more positive ions are coming in. Okay, so here what happens? The minus 70 millivolts will start reducing. So it becomes plus 10, plus 20, plus 30. Now this is the main point. Now obviously because of rapid influx, what happened there? The inside of the membrane in this zone, what happened? It became positive because of the rapid influx of the sodium ions. It became positive. Now comparatively, the outer surface becomes what? Negative, obviously. Not because of the ions, because of the potential difference. So we always say that where we have more ions, that is more positive. Okay, so here we have more influx of sodium ions, so there is more positive here. And outside there is more negative which has been created. Now as I have said, this potential difference will keep on increasing, and this potential difference will keep on increasing up to a point where they can create the movement, of the ions. So what happened here is, think of it. So when more positives come here, so just think, so we have more positives coming here. So what happens? That more positives should be repelled. That more positives, you all know positives and positives repels. So the more positives will repel to next zone or next part of the nerve. So that is more important here, because not only the depolarization, you all know this is called as depolarization, the place where we have the increase in the ionic concentration or the positivity inside the axoplasm. It is called as what? Depolarization. Because what we are doing, we are damaging the polarity of the membrane. The polarity of the membrane was minus 70 millivolts, which we have damaged because of opening of the sodium ions. Now what happened? This is a depolarization depolarization site. It came in, so depolarization started. Depolarization starting does not mean that it will have a nerve impulse, no. So the point is, this depolarized ions should start moving to the next level or next zone. So that is called as nerve impulse. So nerve impulse, now if you observe, nerve impulse is simply the movement of ions to the next parts. Okay, so that is called as nerve impulse. So the capacity of the ions to move from one place to another place, so move from next part, it is called as nerve impulse. But the main point is here, what do you call this potential which can create this movement? That is called as action potential. Very important point. Now because of this rapid influx of the ions, what happened? There is some positivity which has developed and it has started moving these ions to the next site. From the depolarizing to the next site. Now what do you call that one? That is called as action potential. So what is action potential? The membrane potential at which the nerve impulse is generated. Nerve impulse is generated. That is called as action potential. So think of it, what is nerve impulse? Nerve impulse means the movement of ions to the next place or next part of the neuron. That is called as nerve impulse. So at what time they have this capacity to produce the nerve impulse, at what potential difference? That is plus 30. Generally it will be between plus 30 to plus 50 in different neurons. So it depends on the condition of the stimulus. Generally it is plus 30 to plus 50, but people say it's around plus 30. So plus 30 is the average potential difference which can create a nerve impulse. Now what do you call the membrane potential at which we can generate nerve impulse? That is called as action potential. What do you call the resting potential? The potential in the membrane or the potential difference in membrane at resting phase. Now what happened from the resting phase? We got the depolarization. That means the ions got opened up. They came in. We got a depolarization and the polarity is increasing. It is increasing. Up to what level it has to increase? Up to a level that it can pass to the next spot, because you know the ions will repel each other. The repelling capacity should be in such a way that it has to go to the next level to create a nerve impulse. Nerve impulse is nothing but a movement of ions to the next level. So that potential difference is called as action potential. Okay. So now this action potential, what it has done, it has made these ions to go to the next spot. That comes in conduction. We'll discuss that point. But just remember, this is the action potential. This is the generation of the action potential, or we can say generation of the nerve impulse. The nerve impulse started here. Now for this action potential generation, we have some factors. We have some rules. What are they? So the rules of the action potential, or the factors affecting action potential. So we'll start with the factors affecting action potential. So very important, because see, some stimulus can cause the generation of impulse. Some stimulus cannot cause generation of impulse. So why that happens? See, stimulus is nothing but the changing surroundings, but you are not having response to some stimulus and you are showing some response to other stimulus. Why that's happening? Why means some stimulus, they comes under the threshold stimulus. So threshold stimulus, or we can say threshold levels. So think of this one. What is threshold stimulus? A stimulus which can reach the threshold levels, or stimulus which can have the capacity to reach this action potential, that is called as threshold stimulus. So stimulus or stimuli, we can say plural, stimuli which can generate action potential, stimuli which can generate action potential, that stimuli is called as threshold stimulus. Or we can say stimulus which can generate nerve impulse, we can use that word also, which can generate nerve impulse, that is called as threshold stimulus. Now a stimulus below that threshold stimulus, for example, if I put a graph, assume this as the potential difference, on the y axis I have taken the potential difference, and on the x axis we'll take the time. Okay, so on the x axis we'll take the time. So if you observe this graph, at the first point when the stimulus have arrived, okay, when the stimulus have arrived, this stimulus will start producing the action potential. It will start producing the potential difference to the positive side. So if this is able to reach the threshold level, so these are threshold level action potential, that is plus 30 millivolts minimum. So if this stimulus has the capacity to reach this plus 30, then that stimulus is called as threshold stimulus. Okay, now if it is not able, for example, some stimulus will be there which can be producing up to this level, but they can't go up, so this cannot produce nerve impulse. So again, this also cannot produce nerve impulse, this also cannot produce nerve impulse. The point is, this stimulus should be able to produce the potential difference of around how much? Plus 30 millivolts. From minus 70, you know, the resting limit potential is minus 70. From minus 70 to plus 30, it has to go to that level. It has to keep the sodium gated channels open, because sodium gated channels are depending on the stimulus. So if you have continuous stimulus, they will open up the channels till you have the stimulus. Okay, now you may think that it should be longer time. No, the sodium gated channels will be maximum open for around 0.3 to 0.5 milliseconds. So there is not much time, but up to that time the stimulus has to be there. So if there is no stimulus which can produce a difference up to this plus 30 millivolts, or which cannot produce this potential difference, that is action potential, they don't come under threshold stimulus. They are sub-threshold stimulus. They are called as sub. That means all these things, they come under what? They come under the sub-threshold stimulus. That means they are not able to produce the required action potential or required potential difference. Okay, that is my first point. Now second factor is, sometimes there will be summation of these potentials. Sometimes there will be summation effect. So what is meant by summation effect? Summation means addition effect. So sum, you know, in maths sum means addition. So it is also called as addition effect. So what is meant by addition effect? So stimulus which are sub-threshold stimulus will add up. So if you have continuously low threshold stimulus, so you have continuously low subhold, or we can say low threshold stimulus, so they can all add up to generate an action potential. So they can all add up to generate a potential difference, which can reach the action potential, which can reach this level, the threshold level. So if, for example, if you see a small beep sound is coming around your house, at starting you don't think of it, but continuously if you hear it, what happens? You will feel that sound. Why? Because of the addition effect, because of the summation effect of the nerve impulse. Understood? So these things, they all can join up. This all sub-threshold levels will join up, and they can also reach the threshold. So we can have the summation effect, but very rarely. Okay. Now third one is this generation of nerve impulse follows a law called as all or none law. This nerve impulse generation always follow the all or none law. That means if there is threshold stimulus, okay, so equal to or greater than this threshold stimulus. So if there is threshold stimulus, it will produce the nerve impulse, and if there is even more than this, if there is more than the threshold stimulus or more than the action potential, that means, for example, if they generate plus 50 or plus 60, it will be same. So more than threshold stimulus also produces same nerve impulse, produces same response, we can say, or produces same nerve impulse. So that means once it crosses threshold level, it will be same generation of nerve impulse. There is no greater nerve impulse or there is no smaller nerve impulse. Okay, so at one point at the depolarization state, depolarization site, I can say, if you have more threshold stimulus, then it will directly produce a nerve impulse, and if it even more than that also, it produces same nerve impulse. There is no addition of nerve impulse if there is more action potential. So that minimum action potential is required. If it crosses that, that's same for it. It's not different. Okay, so we have got a bigger one, so we should produce a bigger nerve impulse. No, not like that. So once it crosses the threshold, it will give you everything. At plus 30, it will give you everything. At plus 40 also same, plus 50 also same. So it will not say I got only plus 30, I will stay for some nerve impulse, for example half of the nerve impulse. So I got plus 50, I will get full nerve impulse. I got plus 60, I will give you double nerve impulse. Not like that. So once it reaches the 30, that is the threshold levels, that is the action potential level, then it will give you the full throttle. So it will give you a full push up to the nerve impulse. And if there is below this, that means if it is below the minimum threshold values, maybe plus 20 or maybe plus 10, this will not produce any nerve impulse. This will produce zero nerve impulse, because the repulsive effect should be added now. So the ions should be repelled to the next part. They should be passing to the next level. That is the main point here. That is how the nerve impulse is conducted. So conduction we'll discuss tomorrow. So this is how it is conducted. But leaving that point, so for example, if it produces maybe, for example, plus 10 threshold, if the ions don't move, then nothing will happen there. They will be dissolved there only. The ions, the sodium channels will stop, the sodium channels will close, and automatically this will open up, which will again bring it back to normals. I will tell you how it comes back to normals. But remember, the total process we have discussed now is only of around a time value of 0.3 to 0.5 milliseconds. It is very less. And now up to this topic, what we have discussed about the generation of the nerve impulse, the production of the action potential, and what are the factors involved in the action potential, what is threshold, what is depolarization state, what is the trigger point. So in every nerve, we will have a trigger point called as axon hillock. So axon hillock is the place where we have all the ion channels being concentrated. You may get doubts, or why not in the dendrites, or why not in the cyton part? No, because there we don't have the ion channels that much. So ion channels are so much concentrated in this axon hillock zone. So as the concentrated axon hillock zone, the nerve impulse starts here only. Before that, what happens are, then people would have said to you, so from dendrites the signals pass to the axon. True. So there we have movement of ions according to concentration gradient. We'll have movement of ions from one place to another place. Repelling effect. Positives repel positives, negative repels negatives. So we have repelling effects. The ions will be moving, but there you can't see that much of influx of sodium. You can't see that much of ion channels there. So there will also be movement of ions, but that's not called the nerve impulse. That is just the movement of ions. There also will have ion channels, but very less. So where we have the proper generation of nerve impulse means in the axon hillock, where we have this concentration of the ion channels. So you may get doubt, I'll tell you that point also with a clear explanation. So you may get doubt that, sir, what happens in dendrites then? We have dendrites here. So you said that from the cytosol, you know synapse, we'll discuss that point also in next coming classes, don't worry. So we have the dendrites here. So here also, so as there is the signal comes from other dendrite, here also there is movement of ions. So movement of ions will be there, and all those ions will be moving along the membrane. Remember, the nerve impulse or the ions will always move along the membrane. They will not move in the cytoplasm or exoplasm. They will move along the membrane. So they will be moving along the membrane with presence of few channels. As I have said, there will be some channels here also, but those channels are not enough to produce a faster nerve impulse. So this will be slowly coming to this direction. Slowly means 0.3 to 0.5 milliseconds or 0.6 milliseconds or 0.10 milliseconds. They will come towards this zone called as axon hillock, and here we have cluster of these ion channels. That is where the place we have more ion channels, and that is where the place there will be the burst. There will be the opening of the sodium channels, and we can see a spike in the potential difference. What is the spike? From minus 70 to plus 30. That is the spike. That's why the action potential is also called as spike potential. So here we can't see spikes. We can see a small graph going up and down if you use a voltmeter. We'll have small graphs up and down, but where you can see spike means in this region. From there the nerve impulse will pass on. We'll discuss the conduction part in the coming class. So I hope you got this clear, and we will go through the next class in the remaining topics. Okay. So thank you for watching. Thank you so much. This is K. Mohan Krishna signing off.